Welcome to another tier maker. This one is not food related. We're changing it up a bit. We're doing war movies. Now, this was a list that I found on tier maker, and it's, well, there's no list that's going to be completely extensive, right? There's hundreds of war movies, but I thought this was a really good list of choosing some of the best war films of the last, I don't know how many years. There's some older ones in here. There's some new, a lot of newer ones. It probably does lean a little bit towards the newer. Having said that, there are some good choices in here. There's Stalag 17, which I have not seen. I'm sorry, I haven't seen it. Just right out there. Have not seen Stalag 17. That's a William Holden film, and I like William Holden. I've just never seen that one. Gallipoli, know the story, but I have not seen it. We're gonna knock all these out right now. This was an animated film, won best animated feature. I don't remember the name of it, but I know I have not seen it. It was always on the list of films I wanted to watch and never got to. We're just knocking these out right now, all right? We're because there's a pretty good list. I want to be able to talk about some of these movies, so let's do the best we can. A Bridge Too Far, I'm honest, I haven't seen it. Guns of the Navarone, I own it on DVD, I haven't seen it. Still going. Where Eagles Dare, I have seen it. Behind Enemy Lines, Das Boot, The Longest Day, I've seen it. Deer Hunter, American Sniper, Lone Survivor, Patton, Iwo Jima, so that is like the original Iwo Jima film with John Wayne. I have not seen that one. Beasts of No Nation, wasn't that like the first Netflix movie that ever won any sort of an Academy Award? I have not seen it. Hacksaw Ridge, seen it. 30 Dozen, Battle of Algiers, I have not seen. Tora, I have not seen. Restrepo, I have. MASH, Platoon, Blackhawk Down, All Quiet on the Western Front. Oscar-winning film I have not seen. So there's a pretty good amount I haven't seen here, which is interesting because I feel like I've seen a lot of movies. Wait, what is this? What? That's a war movie with Lee Marvin that isn't Kelly's Heroes, so I have not seen it. I just don't know what it is. Grand Illusion I've seen. War Horse I've seen. The Great Escape. God, what is my problem? The Thin Red Line. Fury. Three Kings. Jarhead. Enemy at the Gates. Bridge and River Choir. Behind Enemy Lines. That's both The Longest Day. And The Patriot. Okay, so everything remaining here I have seen. So that's good. So let's talk about them. This is going to be a little different from some of my other tier makers because war movies are very subjective, right? And it's hard to really measure them based on the content, right? I believe, I don't remember which director once said, it's impossible to make an anti-war film because when you show the combat, it's always going to look appealing to people. I would argue that there are a couple of anti-war films that actually don't make it look glorious or glamorous at all. I cannot talk tonight. And one of those is Jarhead. Now, I got to see this in an early screening. I'm just leaving it at sea for now, but we'll talk about it for a second. Jarhead is Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jamie Foxx is his instructor, I believe. And there's a couple other people in it I want to say they were like lower listers that have come up a bit. I need to Google and see exactly the full cast. But it is a pretty realistic movie of the experience of going through boot camp and then going off to war and then realizing that you don't really get to fight. Wanting to fight and not being able to. And the book is based on a true story. It's based on a book, as someone's memoirs. And I went and saw it with a friend of mine who is a Marine. Don't say former Marine. Don't say ex-Marine. Do not say those things. A Marine is a Marine for life. All right, you can say inactive or retired, but you do not say former Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. But I went to see it with a Marine who is no longer active duty, and we walked out of there and he goes, that's the most realistic film I've seen about what boot camp is like and what service time is like, although he never went over and had to fight. Everything he'd heard from all of his friends, he's like, that pretty much described it accurately, and it should, because it was written by someone who did go over and fight in Desert Storm. Jarhead, I'm going to give it a B. It's probably more like a low B. It is a very effective film. It is for me, like, I think I rate it like a 7 out of 10, which means it's a recommendation, but one viewing is enough. And it's a tough watch at times. There's a couple of things, and not because of violence. It's an anti-war film by someone who has served. It's not propaganda. It's pretty realistic. It's just, it shows you the warts and all of the entire process. So, but as a movie, it's pretty well done. It's well cast. It's well acted. Jimmy Fox is fantastic, and Jake Gyllenhaal's really good in it too. Jake Gyllenhaal's a really good actor. I think he's very underrated. So I want to kind of get some of the serious war films out of the way first, and a good portion of these are. But then there's a couple that are a little more lighthearted. You know what? No, let's do it the other way around. Let's start with the lighthearted. Three Kings. I love this movie. Three Kings is so good. Again, we're aiming at Operation Desert Storm time, so like early 90s. But to do it and to frame it as a heist film was fantastic. And I mean, you got Clooney, you got Mark Wahlberg, still, you know, pretty early on, and Ice Cube hadn't done a lot of movies at this point. I believe he had done Friday and like one or two others, and that was about it. He had a couple of good scenes in that movie that you weren't expecting, and honestly, the script is fantastic, right up to the end, where the ending it can go either way. I like the ending, but I understand why some people don't. I think it's an A. I think it's a solid A. What's another kind of lighthearted one? The Great Escape. I'll tell you what, this is a high B for me. I know some people will consider that sacrilege. It's way too fucking long. It's a really long movie, and the pacing in it is the problem. It's one of those where let's throw this gigantic cast in here, and we've got Steve McQueen is iconic as the Cooler King, and it's loosely based, I'll say inspired by a true story, but not really. And it's a fun movie, kinda. There's a couple moments that aren't fun, but they keep it very lighthearted in terms of these are POWs, and yet the way that they deal with everything there makes it look like, you know, maybe being a POW ain't that bad. All right, it's almost like Hogan's Heroes. It's kind of that same vibe. I would tell you that I don't think war is like that. I don't think POW was like that. Being a POW, I've never been one, thankfully, fortunately. Great Escape is a good movie. It's one that if you like classic movies, you've probably already seen it. If you haven't, you should give it a look. But don't expect great things. It's not a masterpiece. Kelly's Heroes, kind of in the same boat. And I'll tell you, Kelly's Heroes is almost exactly like Three Kings. It is a very similar plot. Three Kings kind of borrows very liberally from Kelly's Heroes. But I will tell you, Three Kings, the pacing in Three Kings and the way that it's filmed is fantastic. Kelly's Heroes, very standard kind of war film, but done with a comedic twist at times. But again, it's a watching that film now, it doesn't hold up as well. I do like Donald Sutherland's character, though. He's fantastic. MASH. The original MASH film is phenomenal, and you can see where the inspiration came from for the TV show. It's such a good film. It holds up to this day. If you go and watch MASH, the actual film, speaking of Donald Sutherland, I think he's in that too. Elliot Gould is in it, I know that. The film MASH stands up very well today. Go check it out. Definitely a good film. Where are some other lighthearted ones? Kind of lighthearted. I want to say kind of lighthearted because not every one of these has to be super duper serious, super serial. Because we are going to get into most of these are pretty much that way as we go. Dirty Dozen. Dirty Dozen for me is just a slightly bit ahead of Kelly's Heroes. But not much. They're both good movies. Totally worth seeing. Not masterpieces. Both are too long. But the cast in the Dirty Dozen, holy crap. Fantastic cast. I love it. I mean, let me read off the cast real quick for Dirty Dozen. Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson, Ernest Borgnine, John Cassavetes, Telly Savalas, Donald Sutherland, Robert Ryan, Clint Walker, George Kennedy, Jim Brown. Right? They put Jim Brown in the movie. How awesome is that? Yeah. Dirty Dozen's worth seeing for the cast alone and the setup. The payoff is it's okay, but the setup is the best part. Let's see. Behind Enemy Lines, dude, I'm sorry. It's low C to high D for me. Dude, Owen Wilson. It's just terrible casting in this. Terrible. He's not the worst in it, honestly.
Wow.
But he's pretty bad. It's not good. Gene Hackman was put in there to try to give it some sort of authenticity or something. It's not a good film. I'm sorry. It was of its time, and its time has passed. I think we're kind of done with the semi-lighthearted war movies. Let's just dive right in. Restrepo is a documentary. It's powerful, but at the same time, oh God, I can't give it a C. It's like a low B. I'd rather watch The Dirty Dozen or Kelly's Heroes than watch Restrepo again. No, I'm going to put it as a high C, and here's why. It is shot on a base in Afghanistan that they're not a base in a not even an FOB. It's like a little. I can't think tonight. I'm sorry, my words are not coming. It is active fire zone with some troops that are trying to hold a specific little small base bunker type area, and it is so chaotic and all over the place, and it's real footage. The problem is it's a lot. If you want a realistic, you can't get any more realistic than Restrepo. I have zero desire to see it again. And I think most people who have seen it would never want to watch it a second time. So that's kind of why I'm putting it in as a C. Because for me, repeatability ranks pretty high on these. If it's a film that I want to see multiple times, I'm going to put it up higher. Even if the film isn't as good maybe on paper or isn't as important, it's the repeatability that means something to me. To be able to rewatch something and enjoy it just as much. We Were Soldiers. This is okay. It's not above Restrepo, but you're going to see a few of these with Mel Gibson, and we're not going to get into how problematic Mel Gibson is. Let's just knock all of his out real quick, because he's in like 4 of these. It's also kind of weird to have Braveheart in as a war movie. I mean, kind of. Not war in a military sense, but kind of. Braveheart's a good film, though. It's definitely worth watching. I kind of want to put Jarhead above it. Nah, it's got to be like a high B. Braveheart's a damn good movie. The Patriot, D. Oh my God, how was that 3 hours long? Seriously. Is there any others that he's in? I feel like there's at least one more. I'm looking at this list. I'm not seeing. No, I think that's it. Okay, Platoon. Have you seen Platoon? Best Picture, 1986. Also, Best Screenplay or Best Director? I can't remember. Oliver Stone got himself a couple of awards for this, so I'm pretty sure. You're saying absolute bore fest for Platoon? Is that the one you're saying, Pac? It's a C at best. In fact, it's kind of a low C. Here's the thing. It is of its time, and its time has passed. Or I'm going to say that for a few films. Oh, The Patriot. Yeah, The Patriot was super boring. Platoon is a really good movie for its time. Watching it recently, I'm like, oh God, this is not holding up for me at all. It's just not. Can't do it. Deserved its awards for its time, but that movie now has not aged very well to me. It's so... I don't want to talk too much shit. Maybe it's an Oscar winner, and it is a good movie. It's just not enjoyable, and it's powerful for its time. It just doesn't hold up. Now, I will say a film from that time frame, actually from before that time frame, that holds up really well still is The Deer Hunter, and I can't go higher than a low A. But man, this movie's powerful, and it's still the best film that Michael Cimino's ever made. He's made a couple other films, and then he made Dog Day Afternoon, which is also a fantastic movie. And then he made Heaven's Gate, and it was like one of the biggest bombs in Hollywood history, and then he disappeared. So Deer Hunter, I would still argue, is his best film, even though Dog Day Afternoon is up there as well. Let's get the Kubricks going, because Kubrick's made 2 major war films. I'm going to put Paths of Glory as an S, and I'll tell you why. We talked about Kubrick before, right? I think I did a Kubrick Tearmaker. In fact, I know I did. Paths of Glory is a tight, like 98 minutes. It is one of the first films to show World War I trench type warfare. And the way they mapped out the trenches, go watch 1917, which, by the way, 1917 should be on this list because that would be a high A, maybe even a low S. 1917, fantastic freaking movie. World War I, if you haven't seen it, it got nominated for a bunch of Oscars. It didn't win, actually lost Best Picture to Parasite, which was my favorite film that year. But 1917 is a fantastic film. It took a lot of inspiration in some of the trench shots, well, one trench shot really, because the movie is shot like one shot, from Paths of Glory. It's extremely influential. If you go watch that now today, the way they filmed in the trenches, everyone has aped that. And this was an early Kubrick film. This is the first film he made with Kirk Douglas. He went on to make, well, just Spartacus was the other one with him. And the ending is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. It is a wonderful film even to this day, and it holds up very, very well. Full Metal Jacket, for me, it's a B. Here's why. I'll put it up here. We'll do that. It is, the first half of the film is S tier. The second half is low C. So I kind of split the difference at like a high B. In fact, we'll put it ahead of Braveheart because I still watch that film on a semi-regular basis. Block and Reported. Full Metal Jacket. No, dude, the first hour of Full Metal Jacket is beyond iconic. It's just, there's two halves to the film, and the second half is nowhere near as good. It suffers because the first half is so good. Lone Survivor. So this is a Marky Mark film, and it's based on a true story. The movie itself is pretty good. I think Peter Berg directed it, and he does a pretty good job with the action. He does a really good job of letting you know where the soldiers are in position to the gunfire that's coming. It's based on a very specific event, so it's not like one of these multiple days combat type film. It is a specific event that happens, and the way he survives it, I don't want to spoil it. I think if you like war films, you have to see Lone Survivor. In fact, putting it as a C isn't doing it justice. I think it's a low B. And Marky Mark, one of his best performances. If you haven't seen it, it's very underrated. The last 20 minutes or so of that film completely makes it. And it takes it from a slightly above average war movie to, like, it goes from a high C to a low B with the last 20 minutes. Very, very good. The Hurt Locker. I really liked this movie when I first saw it, and it won Best Picture for some reason, which I was like, why? And then I watched it a second time, and I was like, eh. And then I watched it a third time, and I was like, eh. It's right here with Platoon. In fact, I would put Platoon... No, it's a high D, honestly. Dude, the last 15 minutes of this movie is a fucking disaster. How this won Best Picture, I don't understand. No, I'm sorry, 15 minutes? Let's go like 30 minutes. The very, very last scene kind of makes sense. But we've got the Falcon, Anthony Mackie, running around just shooting up the place. Like, how did they even get off the base? Like, none of the last action scene in the film makes any sense at all. It's totally bullshit. Like, complete horseshit. The first hour of that film, fantastic. Oh, by the way, there's also an extended scene where they're using like a Barrett 50 cal sniper rifle to hold down some people who are shooting back at them. And it's like, these guys aren't trained snipers, and yet they're out there like doing, you know, like he's scouting for, I think Mackey's shooting, or is Renner shooting? I can't remember which one. And the other one's, you know, spotting for him and making all these call outs, and they're trying to snipe and stuff. And it's like, they're bomb disposal techs. And I went and looked online later, and all these people who are like scout snipers are like, what the fuck is that scene? Like, they got super pissed because there's no way. He's like, having them do what they do in that, they would not have had any of that training at all, because they are bomb techs. Like, once you get out of boot camp and you know where they figure out which direction you're going, that's pretty much it. You don't, like, they would never have had a reason to fire that Barrett 50 cal in their life. Good luck hitting anything remotely of a target with a Barrett 50 cal if you've never fired one. He's like, and all these people are posting about it, just in a couple of different threads that I was reading. It's like, there's no way you're going to be that accurate with that thing. It's firing rounds that are against the Geneva Convention. They're so freaking huge. It's just in the movie because let's put a sniper thing in the movie. I'm telling you, the Hurt Locker, the bomb defusal stuff in the first 40 minutes or so is fantastic. And the rest of the film is kind of dog shit. So D. It's a very movie, says Pac. It won Best Picture, and honestly, I was like, cool. I was happy to see a female director win Best Picture. Like, that was great. I was so happy for that, even in spite of the way I felt about the ending. And then I went and watched it a second time, and I was like, man, this is some horse shit. You know what else isn't in here? Speaking of, the next movie that she made, Zero Dark 30, which I would actually put Zero Dark 30 a little bit ahead of Hurt Locker. It would probably be a high C, in fact. It is kind of bullshit in some spots, but it's a little bit more watchable. Blackhawk Down, this is a high A, and don't even tell me otherwise. A lot of people who were involved in that Mogadishu survival run trying to rescue the downed chopper pilot, they all came out and basically said there's only one or two little minor things in the film that were not true, but pretty much everything else happened the way it happened, right down to the timing of when things happened. And Ridley Scott admitted, he said, the one big cheat that I have in the film is using these aerial drones to give you to give the viewer like a bird's eye view to help you establish positions, to understand where soldiers are at different times. And they made it look like back at the base that they could see that. They couldn't see that. They did not have that tech. That was not something that existed back then. Not in the way that it's shown in the film. They may have been able to get a satellite photo or two, but they wouldn't have been able to have the extended views that they had, like when the car's driving early on, and when they're caught and pinched by a couple of different crews that are coming at them at night. None of that would have been visible from command post, so or the command station. But that's like the only thing in that movie that doesn't really carry water, and it's excusable because he's using it as a narrative device to help you understand positioning, and it works. So I don't have a problem with it at all. Blackhawk Down is a fucking great war movie, and I will say I also saw that with my friend who is an inactive duty Marine, retired Marine, and same guy that I saw Jarhead with, and we both walked out of that like catching our breath. And I said, okay, gotta ask. And he goes, their attention to detail was spot on, because he's like, and he was explaining to me the way he watches like films like with military characters is what's their trigger discipline, what's the way they hold the weapons. Like, he's looking at that stuff, and it's like if a movie hires someone who is a technical advisor, military advisor, firearm technical advisor, who doesn't beat it into them and take time to train them on the proper ways to hold the firearm, proper ways to fire it, it looks fakey. But in this film, he goes, any one of those folks could have passed for actual like military. So he kind of, the way he explained that stuff makes me watch movies like that a little bit differently too. So like, if you see someone who's supposed to be this badass gunfighter and they're doing all this weird shit, if it's not done for style and it's just like sloppy, I hate that. Pac says it's a very exhausting movie in a good way. I'm telling you, we both walked out of that like, because they basically walk back to that Olympic arena or that whatever that like that track arena, and when they get back to that and into safety, you are breathing heavily like they are because you feel like you've been through it. It's quite an experience. Speaking of an experience, this film is called Come and See. It is one of the most harrowing war films ever made. I believe it's Russian. 1985. Come and See. It is a Soviet anti-war film, 1985. I will say, it focuses on the Nazi German occupation of Belarus, and the events are witnessed by a young Belarusian partisan teenager named Flyora, who, against his mother's wishes, joins the resistance movement and thereafter depicts the Nazi atrocities and human suffering inflicted upon the Eastern European villages populace. Doesn't that sound like fun? That movie is, it's not like it's a bunch of Nazi atrocities. It's not just that. The film is about the loss of innocence, and it is about what war does to regular people and to what it does to non-combatants, much less participants. It is, to this day, one of the most singular experiences I've ever had watching a war film. I'm actually going to put it, I don't know that I can put it ahead of Paths of Glory, because Come and See is a film you watch once, but that one experience will stick with you for the rest of your life. So if that sounds like something you're into, I highly recommend you see it. Just watch it when you're in the right headspace for it, because it is a lot. All right, Letters from Iwo Jima. This is part of 2 movies. So where's the other one? He did Flags of Our Fathers. I'll be honest, Flags of Our Fathers is straight F tier. It's dookie. It is doo-doo. It is so bad. It is what was that script? Like, Clint Eastwood has made some masterpieces, made some of my favorite films. Unforgiven, top 20 of all time, maybe even top 15. Flags of Our Fathers might be one of the worst films he's ever made. I would put it up there with a couple of his worst films. It's just bad. But then he came back and did Letters to Iwo Jima, or Letters from Iwo Jima. That is a good movie. That is a B level movie. I would put it slightly behind Lone Survivor. And again, Lone Survivor, not trying to be as artistic, right? Peter Berg is a very different director from Clint Eastwood, granted, but Letters from Iwo Jima is a pretty good movie, and it's definitely like a B-. 7 out of 10, worth watching once, right? 8 out of 10, that's something I would watch a second time. 9 out of 10, you're talking up here. These are 9s. These up here are 10 out of 10 unassailable masterpieces. Hey, that's how we're doing this. Dunkirk. Wow, Dunkirk's a damn good movie. I honestly think Dunkirk belongs up here. It is the shortest film that Christopher Nolan's ever made, except for his very debut, which is called Following, I think was about 100 some minutes. This is a very good movie. It's tight. I'm going to put it slightly ahead of Lone Survivor because I just think the craft of that film is impeccable. Hacksaw Ridge. All right, this is going to be a fun one because this is directed by Mel Gibson, and I went into it also with Andrew Garfield as the lead, and I went into it thinking there's no way I'm going to like this movie. So my expectations were low. But I'm telling you something right now. It is based on a true story, and it plays it very closely to the truth. I went and looked up a couple of history websites after I saw the film because I was like, there's no way it happened like that. It happened like that. Very much like that. Hacksaw Ridge, this is a fantastic movie. It's also very underrated. I would put it up here with Great Escape and Jarhead. I honestly would. In fact, I'm putting it ahead of Jarhead. I think that's where it belongs. I will just give you the real quick explanation. It is kind of a life story about someone who wants to go and fight for his country, but he is a pacifist because of his religious beliefs. And they go into it a tiny bit at the start, but they don't beat the drum really hard. I gotta give props to Mel Gibson as a filmmaker, not as a person, but as a filmmaker. He understood. Yeah, he's made movies that are so, pro-Christianity or whatever, and you can argue all that. That's not what I'm here to do right now. I'm here to say that I'm not a religious person, but Hacksaw Ridge was a film that touched me. When I watched that, and by the end of the film, I was choked up. And seeing what he went through as a field medic that refused, this is based on a true story. This person went to basic training and he refused to touch a gun. No weapons at all. He's like, I'm a medic. I'm here to be a medic, and my job is to help people, not to hurt people. I will not fire another weapon. And he gets all this pushback from his superiors, his whatever they call it, the people that are in basic training with him. They all basically just rip on him, and they start to see his heart, and they're like, you know what? Maybe this guy really means business. Like, he's not just screwing around. And then there's an event that happens that he has to go into combat, and there's this huge cliff that they have to scale to get up to and to take this area up above on the top of this cliff. And the real cliff in real life is it's very similar to the one that's in the movie. Mel Gibson, hats off. He did a fantastic job with Hacksaw Ridge, and it's a movie that not a lot of people saw. I'm telling you, it is definitely worth a watch. I've watched it twice now, and the second time I got choked up in it too, so I can't recommend that one too much higher. Apocalypse Now, S tier. The S of all S's. Do you want to argue it with me? Anybody? You can't. Is it surreal? Yes. Is it meant to be Vietnam, as Vietnam is? Well, he said that at Cannes, right? Francis Ford Coppola said, this movie isn't about Vietnam. This film is Vietnam, right? He did that whole speech, and it got people's attention, and it's a fun clip. It's not really Vietnam, but in a way, he was one of the only filmmakers who captured what it felt like to be there. Not just to be there, but to really be there. Mentally, you are with them, and the way they're seeing things, and the way they're hearing things, and the way they're feeling things. It is so immersive. And by the end of the film, it's so batshit nuts, but it all holds together. And the fact that he put that script together, the ending, because Milius's original script was very gung-ho Rambo, blow shit up together. And he's like, that's not the message of this story. It's loosely based from Heart of Darkness, which is Joseph Conrad. It's a fantastic book. Right? Joseph Conrad? Heart of Darkness? Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness. I've read it. I'm saying Joseph Conrad. Please tell me. Joseph Conrad. Okay, I got that right. If I've seen Apocalypse Now once, I've seen it 20 times. I'm not kidding. I've probably seen it about 20 times. Got the 4K. I've purchased it like 6 different times. I bought the VHS. They came out with a widescreen VHS. Bought that. They came out with the DVD. I bought that. They came out with 4 different DVD versions. I've bought this movie probably 9 or 10 times in my life. It is one of my top 3 films ever. It's going to be S tier. No way around it. Pac agrees. It's a masterpiece. Now you can talk about the different versions. There's the Redux. There's the final cut. Honestly, plain old vanilla, and I'm good. Redux added 4 major scenes. 2 of them were pretty good, worth keeping. One of them was extended time with Corporal Kilgore. Liked it. A little bit more about the surfing. It's good stuff. Didn't need to be in the movie. I was fine with them cutting it. Seeing the Redux version, it's almost an hour longer, and it does not need that. There's another scene that's okay, is all right, and then there's 2. The whole French plantation scene. Get it out of there. Like he made the right call not having it in there. The fact that they even had the footage and they pieced it together and they made it, cleaned it up and made it look like it belonged in the film. Kudos, right? Good job. But no. Interesting experiment, but Apocalypse Now Redux, you don't need it, right? Go on YouTube and watch the 4 scenes. Go watch them. The final cut plays a tiny bit with the editing, and 1 or 2 of those scenes from Redux gets in there, but then he trims a couple of minutes out in some other places, and it's like, okay, it's better than Redux, but just watch the original. The original is the masterpiece. Glory's A tier. I'm gonna put it just below Deer Hunter, but I'll tell you what, Glory is there a better Civil War film made in America? Civil War films made in other countries about other civil wars. I can't comment on those, but this film, Matthew Broderick's in it and he's not annoying. That right there puts it at A tier. No, Glory is one of those I've seen twice, and I don't know that I'll watch it a third, but those 2 times were wow. A very young Denzel who was fan-fucking-tastic in that movie. You can't take your eyes off of him the entire film. Where Eagles Dare. This is kind of a fun movie. I probably should have put this when I was kind of going through the more lighthearted films. It's a C. It's one of those fun 70s movies where it's kind of war, but it's kind of not. It's okay. It's not Clint Eastwood's best, but it's watchable. I watched it on like Turner Classic. They had it on Turner Classic Films or Turner Classic Movies channel. I was like, ooh, I've never seen Where Eagles Dare. I'm gonna have to record that. Sometime during the pandemic, I think I've watched it a couple years ago. In 2020, I was watching movies like crazy because I was like, I don't have my commute. I can on my lunch break, I can watch half a movie. I did a lot of that. The Longest Day. This is kind of an attempt at the Dirty Dozen of having a really huge cast, and it's kind of about D-Day, and it's kind of okay. Like, I'm gonna put it over here and see. God, that movie's long. Oh my God, that movie's long, and not in a good way. But you like classic war movies? You should give it a look. Kinda. Just don't expect it to be a great movie. It's not a great movie. Saving Private Ryan. Come on. Is the pacing a tiny bit of an issue? Like, if I'm gonna nitpick Saving Private Ryan, I will just say, could you cut maybe 5 or 10 minutes out of the film? Yes. But out of a film that's 2 hours and 40 minutes, to say you can only maybe cut 5 or 10 minutes, it's still pretty good. Yeah, that is it's an S tier. One of my favorite films still, I would say top 20. And it's another one, I have not seen it as much as Apocalypse Now, but I've seen it a lot. 10 times? Probably? 12? Yeah, probably. Pearl Harbor, F. Alright, Inglourious Bastards. Okay, let's talk about Pearl Harbor real quick. Michael Bay has made some good movies. He has. Michael Bay made a couple of films that were really long, like Armageddon, and then he's like, oh, Private Ryan, well, I can do that too, but I'll do it for Pearl Harbor. I want to say because it came out after Private Ryan, right? Yeah. 3 years after Private Ryan. Oof. Private Ryan. Yes. Pearl Harbor. No. You know, you made a fantastic war film when veterans say the only thing missing was the smell. I sincerely wish that my grandfather had lived long enough to see Private Ryan. He served in Iwo Jima, so he was Pacific Theater. I think that's a film that he also would have somewhat appreciated, although I think he would have just not wanted to see the Japanese side of it. And for good reason. He lost a lot of friends in World War II in trying to take Iwo Jima. I think if he watched Private Ryan, even though he didn't serve in the Atlantic Theater, I think he would have had the similar reaction. I think he would have probably had a mild PTSD type reaction to it. The fact that those cameras put you there, it is one of the most iconic. The beach landing scene in Normandy is something that there aren't a lot of filmmakers who could have pulled that off, and Spielberg did it in spades. Pearl Harbor, I'm sorry. Is it the worst film Michael Bay's ever made? I don't know. Probably. The Pianist. So, first of all, Roman Polanski's made some really good films. Fuck the guy, but he's made some good films. This is a C. It's a one and done, but it's a very good one. It's a very good view. But once is all you're gonna watch this. We'll put it as a low C for now. Like, I'd rather watch the Longest Day. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. I'm thinking about repeatability. Patton is a high A. Oh my god, it's long. But I'm gonna put it slightly above MASH, but a little bit below Blackhawk Down. Patton is the first 10 minutes of that film. You have seen so many movies, TV shows, comedy things, all bite from the first 10 minutes of that film. It is, oh my god, it's masterful. And he is fantastic in the film. He is Patton. So the fact that he got the Oscar was kind of a, yeah, of course. You watch the film and you're like, that's Patton. I want you to run through them like crap through a goose, is one of the quotes. From the first like 10 minutes, there's like 3 bangers in there. I don't want you to die for your country. I want you to make some other poor bastard die for his country. Also, the best line, Miles and I quote this all the time. Rommel, you magnificent bastard, I read your book! Yeah. It is so good. Even today. Again, it's a little long, but it's one of those early 70s films that didn't really know how to edit. But in spite of that, it can be forgiven. It is a fantastic movie. I mean, I'm starting to think I'm returning this chair. I'm gonna be honest. Inglourious Bastards. I really like this movie. But to call it a war movie, though, is just kind of not fair. I should have had this one when I was trying to do the lighthearted movies, for sure. This is not really a war movie. It's like The Dirty Dozen. I can't put it higher than that. I like the movie. I have it on 4K. Really, though? We're talking about Come and See. We're talking about Paths of Glory. We're talking about Private Ryan. We're talking about Apocalypse Now. The vibe just doesn't fit. I kind of don't think it belongs in this list. Grand Illusion. Oh my god. Grand Illusion is fan-fucking-tastic. If you haven't seen this, let me tell you, it's up there with MASH. It is a phenomenal war film. It is a Criterion regular. It pretty much comes out on every version that Criterion does. They'll do Grand Illusion as long as they have the rights to it. Yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about what the Grand Illusion is about. I want to say it's like from the 40s. It's 1937. Directed by Renoir. Class relationships among the small group of French officers who are prisoners during World War I and plotting an escape. So it is basically an escape film like The Great Escape, but it has way more going on in it. With the characters, the performances, it's... I don't want to give it away. The Grand Illusion is a really good film. Is it as repeatable as Three Kings? Or Deer Hunter? Or Glory? Maybe not, but I still think it's a better film than those. I really do. I'm going to put it slightly behind MASH. American Sniper. This is a D. I'm sorry. Again, Clint Eastwood. He's made some masterpiece films. Masterpieces. American Sniper is just a bunch of horse shit. Like, if you look up the actual story, and it's not about Chris Kyle, all right? Or whatever his beliefs, if he was a shitty person or whatever, nothing about that. I'm not putting any of that into this. I'm just saying, as a film, it's not good. If a movie's based on a true story, I want a semblance of truth in it. And there's some serious horseshit in that movie. I'm sorry. Go do the research if you've seen it. Go to History versus Hollywood. See how it looks. Not as much bullshit as some other stuff. But I can't put it above Hurt Locker. We'll put it right there. Bridge in the River Kwai. This is a high B. I'm telling you, this is another one up there with The Great Escape that I do think Bridge in the River Kwai holds up a little bit better than The Great Escape. It's 2 hours and 40 some minutes. It's David Lean. All right, David Lean made not lean films. If I'm going to watch a David Lean film, I'm watching Lawrence of Arabia. Every day. All day, every day. Give me that 4K. I didn't buy that big Columbia box set for the 4K, but that's the only way you can get it. But man, Lawrence of Arabia is his masterpiece. Bridge in the River Kwai is up there, though. And it's... Everyone knows that song. It's all from that movie. The futility of war, the futility of the chain of command. There's a lot of things going on in that movie, and William Holden at his peak. William Holden's in like 5 of these movies on this list, by the way. War Horse, Spielberg. It's a C. It's a C. It's in here, up here with this. A little bit better than I expected it to be, but by the end it was just kind of inconsequential. Just kind of like, it was forgettable, I think is the problem. And Spielberg doesn't usually make forgettable movies. Not usually. Enemy at the Gates. This is a B. This is a B. I can't put it above Dunkirk. I'll put it above Lone Survivor, though. Somewhat based on a true story. Again, it takes a little bit of liberty, but it's really well done. And Ed Harris is in it. And Ed Harris is a great third in this. Rachel Weisz is in it too, as well, and it's kind of weird. Her character's in it is weird. There's a love scene, and it's really fucking weird. Good movie, though. Very good movie. All right, we're down to the last three. Fury. Fury was really meh. Like, I'll put it as a low C, but it's kind of more like a high D. It's a high D. It's a D. It's about tanks. It's following a crew that's in a tank. Some stuff happens. Roll credits. Like, it's just inconsequential. Das Boot. This is a high B. This is up here with Bridge on the River Kwai. This is a German masterpiece. Is it above Braveheart? No. Although I still think it's a cheat to call Braveheart a war movie. Not war in the way we think. Das Boot is a German film about a submarine crew. And it is one of the most intense war movies you'll ever see. The full, like, 3.5 hour-ish. What's the longest cut on it? I want to say it's long. Das Boot. 1981. There are different versions, but the main version is 149 minutes, so 2.5 hours long. Unreleased version, 209 minutes. Over 3 hours. Yeah. Oh, the original uncut version is a miniseries, 293 minutes. Holy crap. It is such a good movie. It is incredibly intense. It is... You're there in this boat. It is filmed very claustrophobically with the people in this submarine, this German U-boat. And when there's a ship above them and they're dropping depth charges and they have to kill the engines, and they're just sitting there in the water listening for the depth charges. It's like, oh my God. It is so incredibly well filmed. Fantastic movie. It's one a lot of people haven't seen. I'm telling you, Das Boot. Get the subtitled version. Don't watch the dub. Trust me, you need the sub on this one. We're not talking anime, all right? Dubs have their place. Subs have their place. This movie, the dub is atrocious. Get the subtitled version. I've seen the dub. And then I went and, like, a week later, I rented the subtitle. I'm like, is there a subtitle version? Because I watched that and I wish I hadn't. Last one on here. This is a tough one. This is The Thin Red Line. This is Terrence Malick's third film. He'd been out of the game since Days of Heaven, which came out in like in 82. And then he came out in 98 and dropped this on our heads. So he was out of the game for like 15 or 16 years. It's almost 3 hours long, and it's extremely quiet in most cases. There is some war in it, but it is so it's introspective, and it's soldiers reading their thoughts as narrators, and it's if you've seen anything Terrence Malick's ever made, you know what you're in for. The cast in this is fantastic. I think because when people heard Terrence Malick was coming out of retirement to make this film, I think everyone jumped at the chance, because he's made Badlands and Days of Heaven, which were two absolute masterpieces of their own, and they're very different movies. But the look and feel of those films is unlike anything anyone's ever made. So when they heard he was making a World War I story, everyone came out of the woodwork. You've got some young talent in it. You've got Clooney was in it at the time. Woody Harrelson. The cast in this is like, there's like 15 stars in it, but it's not anything like The Great Escape or Dirty Dozen. There's combat in it, but it's so sparse. It's again about the futility of war, but it's also about the duality of man in a way that is not handled as cleanly in Full Metal Jacket. It's a film I've seen twice. I saw it in a theater opening weekend. I didn't really absorb all of it because I had no clue what I was seeing. It was my first Terrence Malick film, too. I just went in thinking I'm going to see this really cool looking war film and didn't realize what I was in for. The second time I watched it, it was a hell of a lot better because I knew what to expect. For me personally, it's somewhere in here. Yeah, I'll put it slightly above Hacksaw Ridge, but I think it's kind of in the same boat. Hacksaw Ridge is a very straightforward film, where this is... The Thin Red Line is almost like Zen. The movie itself is so Zen, the way the camera's floating all the time. It's almost like you're a disembodied spirit that's floating over things, and that's probably what he was going for. Alright, so I've been blabbing long enough about these war films. I will tell you, that S tier is unfuckwithable. If you disagree, you're wrong. Go ahead and disagree with me anyway. Throw it in the chat if you're watching this on Twitch right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, hey, I appreciate your hanging out with me. Throw me a like and a subscribe, please. I would appreciate it. I'm trying to do more tier makers. And give me an idea. What should I do a tier maker of next? I've done quite a few of these. But let's do some other ones. Give me some ideas. Throw me some ideas. What do you want to see me do a tier maker on next? All right? And if you want to put a comment to say, this is my favorite of this list, right? Because 1917 should be on this list. There's quite a few that should be on this list, but 1917 definitely should be on this list. That would have been a high A, maybe even a low S. It's a fantastic film. But what do you think should be my next tier maker? Go ahead and put it in there. But otherwise, yeah, I think we're pretty good on this list. A little bit of up and down, maybe. Some people might think Pearl Harbor's better. I don't know. Pearl Harbor's pretty shit. Flags of Our Fathers also kind of shit. I'm sorry, but no, these four. Most people have not seen Come and See. It's kind of hard to track down. I think Criterion did put it out on Blu-ray not too long ago, last year. Give it a rent. Go find it on video on demand and rent it. It's probably like a $5 rental. I'm telling you. Just be prepared for almost 2 hours of just gut punches. It is a tough watch, but it's extremely important. It's an extremely important film to watch, and there's a reason why it is so critically acclaimed. Paper edibility tier list. Pac, I don't like that idea. Spy films. Ooh, VCAT. That's a good idea. Let me wrap this up real quick just to say again, thank you all for watching. Appreciate you. I went a little long on this one, but war movies, there's a lot to talk about. But we'll be back with another tier maker real soon. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube, throw me a quick subscribe, and I'll be back soon. Have a great night.